that you would have for us this evening. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
First item of business is the approval of the minutes from the April 12th. Oh. You called the meeting to order? I snuck right past you. I'm moving on.
So now you can actually do minutes. Apologies, y'all. Good evening and welcome to your Forest City Council public comment meeting. Now back to you, Jeanette.
First item of business is the approval of the minutes from the April 12th council meeting and the April 19th work session, the April 19th public comment meeting, and the April 26th council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Oh, just, Carrie's not here, so she's going to take care of it. Okay, perfect. Motion carries.
That concludes all of the business, Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to move to our public comment. Our first speaker is a phone call, Natasha Nelson.
We haven't been able to reach her. We have
Okay.
the second speaker.
Okay, we're going to go to Malik Austin.
Malik,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Okay, good evening to the council and mayor. I'm calling today about the ongoing violence that has erupted in the city of Fort Worth. About a week ago, going on 2 weeks, a young man, Rashard Ginyard, was murdered at the Southwest Event Center on the Southwest side on Alts Mason. This young man was a scholar, athlete, student, headed to Abilene Christian University. Very, very sad to see that type of talent. Life gone. Won't even get to make it to his prom or graduation. I haven't heard much concern from the city. The chief told us that he had a whole rollout violent crime, and we as the public have yet to see it. The police department is not providing any information to try to apprehend these guys who murdered this young man. And if you represent that area, I ask that you be more concerned and worrying about spending $74 million worth of police equipment on a group of people that don't produce anything. So when we have public outcry and you took an oath to serve the public, whether you're a councilman, mayor, police chief, and you have this type of ongoing violence, 101 incidents, gun violence. This is a short period of time for this year to turn out, and we demand that we get what we voted, y'all to, the mayor, city council, city manager, police chief. You took a sworn oath to serve the people, and we ask you that you serve the people adequately and sufficiently instead of wasting our time on how to spend money on cameras, tasers, and things such as that's not helping us. What we need is action. A serious action plan is going to get this city back into balance. If we have a public outcry for assistance to bring these guys and get justice, and so the people can come forward and speak to bring these guys, get these guys arrested. We are demanding that based on U.S. Constitution, if the police can't do it, we will form, we'll police ourselves. We'll form our own militias to start policing our own communities. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Our next caller is Natasha Nelson.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
please go ahead. You have 3
Yes,
minutes.
I'm here. Yes, good evening. I just wanted to spend this evening to remind the city of Fort Worth on what's happening because it's been a very long time since October 12th, 2019. And here we are this week in May 2022, spending hours and hours and hours and dragging a family that has experienced one of the worst tragedies I've ever witnessed in my life. And I just want to remind the city of Fort Worth that Tatiana Jefferson was a beautiful Black queen with a bright future. She was an aunt, a sister, a daughter. She was intelligent. She had a plan. She loved her family. She brought balance to her family, and that's been taken away. And since then, her family is fighting and fighting to keep the boat from rocking and just have still waters just for a moment. And it's become impossible. So I just want to speak out to everyone and remind them to say her name. It's that time again. I know it's been a long break, but it's time to say her name again. It's time to show that Fort Worth stands behind her. It's time for everyone that have once spoken to speak again and go ahead and press repeat and say all the nice things that you said about her when this tragedy happened. And it's time for us to come together and embrace the family, because this is the moment we've been waiting for. We're not going to put up with any more prolonging of this trial. And it's just time for everyone to come together and spread love and support Tatiana Jefferson, a beautiful Black queen that was taken away from us from a former Fort Worth police officer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Natasha. Our next speaker is Bob Willoughby.
I want everybody to know that they talked to y'all. You really don't care, because if you did, you wouldn't have took us off the city council agenda. This is quarantine, okay? Okay, let's get with this. The first thing real quick, the expenditures, the council member expenditures, this is something that should be posted on the website underneath one of them so we can see what they're spending their money on. All of this, and I got another page of this too, and it's not going to put it all up there. I got it for free. This is 3 years of council, all this free. Now they charge you for just a quarter of this much stuff, so it's hard to find out what they're spending their money on. You guys spend money to find it. That's wrong. This should be posted on the website. That's transparency. Okay, one thing why it's so important, District 7, Dennis expenditures. You can't tell in here, but his total is around $60,000. Everybody else is around 80, 90,000. That's 20,000 less than everybody else, and I know why. If you look at it, you see why. And that's how you save money, by looking at this. But anyway, also District 2, which is not on here. That was a Hispanic, as a matter of fact, Sal. His phone bill was like $8,000. Others were $3,000. But you know, the Hispanics want good representation, because that's white and Black, Asian. Be good.
Wow, Bob, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Move
Well,
on
drop
to a new
that. Drop
subject.
that. Drop it. Stop there. We'll move on to the next thing. Mr. Cook. We haven't got a meeting yet. It's been 2 weeks, okay? I don't have more time to fool around. We got to remove Michelle Gook, or she's got to do her job. We got to have a neighborhood association. We can't. She's standing in our way, and it's your responsibility to do something about it. So get me a meeting, okay? So we can get this over with. I got other stuff to do. Sorry, I don't got time to play around. You got to meet me, okay? Other thing, fwdistrict5.com. Please see the video. You can see the videos of the council members after these dog and pony shows, okay? You'll see the real council members at district5.com. We're posting the videos of your real council members afterwards when they're not behind this invisible wall where they don't answer, okay? Or where Maddie doesn't have her hand on the mute button, okay? I can speak freely then. It's really nice. Okay.
You're free to talk, Bob, as long as you're not racist.
You can go back and look
keep
at it, see how
going.
many times never mind. You can look, see how many times she stopped my videos and everything else, okay? So here's another thing. Let's see. The council spends, oh yeah, here's one. Mr. Firestone, you've got to be the smartest. You're the quietest. You got to be the smartest. But anyway, sir, what I'm saying now is that if you'd like, after this meeting, if you'd like to come down and take a question, I'd love for you to come down and answer a question. I believe that, like the other person was saying, these council members took oaths to serve the people. And I'll tell you, the premise of the job is answering questions, okay? And they don't do it. So anyway, I can't say about Mr. Firestone. We'll see afterwards, but tonight, if you'll come down and take a question, we'll see, okay? And thank you, Chris, for your interview and how you threw the other council members on the bus, because it's their fault why you voted against our right to speak. We should be back on the agenda next week, like everybody else in other cities. We're not on the city council. Just think if 40 people came down here now, it won't matter. 40 people come down to while we're on the agenda, that would be embarrassing to them. We have power when we're there. We don't have that power, and that's why they took us off. Thank you.
Our next speaker is George Childs.
My name is George Vernon Childs. My residence address is number 742901 Travis Avenue, Fort Worth. On April 19th, I cited from my handbook for police union leaders titled Police Union Power, Politics and Confrontation in the 21st Century, second edition, one of 3 books of this type co-authored by Ronald G. DeLorde. This was in response to a statement by the POA president that a decision by 3 council members against a third Bearcat was a slap in the face. I now return to that book. It is a slap in the face to those who have faced the unpleasant fact, often through personal experience, that police simply cannot be trusted to police themselves, for a union to portray that concern as, quote, the community do-gooders start screaming for civilian review every time one of the bad guys gets a torn thumbnail during a resisting arrest encounter, unquote, at page 25, is a slap in the face to the concept of equal justice under the law for a union to play up to community leaders, obviously not the same as community do-gooders, in what DeLorde terms a controversial case, because his observation that, quote, if community leaders come to the defense of their police officers, it may lessen the likelihood the officers will face criminal charges, especially if the prosecutor has an elected boss, and it may sway management away from severe disciplinary action, unquote, at page 214. Is it a slap in the face to the concept that elected representatives might actually act on their own initiative to assert, quote, a view grounded in the reality that public officials will only do what they are forced to do, unquote, at page Roman numeral 13. Is it a slap in the face to the concept that respect for elected officials derives from the respect shown by voters by selecting them to observe that it is sometimes useful to regard a municipal government as a cockroach trapped under a shoe at page 31? Is it a slap in the face to the concept of honesty in negotiations to remember, quote, it is nice to give your reasoning a little academic camouflage, unquote, at page 173? Is it a slap in the face to the concept of fairness in elections for a candidate to use a union's recommended method for disrupting an opponent's press conference at pages 175, 76? And finally, would it be a slap in the face to the pursuit of trust for the POA to stand right here and show how I'm wrong?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gerald Banks, Sr.
Good evening, Gerald Banks Senior, District 5. Our youth shouldn't have to fear the police or anyone else and to make a mistake and learn from it while showing respect is within reason. To submit official oppression and to be unprofessional, disrespectful, and threatening towards an individual because you think you are superior is not warranted and shouldn't be tolerated. Morgan, 4656. I made a formal complaint with the Oversight Board and will continue to speak. It's my right. Riding in the streets because of no sidewalks or just in general is unsafe, and we know that. But the city cut out riding in the parks on the grass and in the streets of neighborhoods. So build a designated area at a reasonable price for our kids to ride safely without fear from the police and subject to arrest for the pipeline to prison method. To our young people, live to live again. There is a new game in Fort Worth called Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up. And you don't realize the consequences or trauma caused by the actions of careless others until it hits your doorstep. Rounding up and throwing them in jail is not a solution without a greater outcome because the system is broken. figure out a projective measure that can benefit the life of our young people. Have you asked your young people what is it they want out of life? And don't be surprised when when you hear them say they just want to live. A better life is waiting for them, and it's up to us to provide that life, no matter where they come from. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Gerald. Our next speaker is Adrian Smith.
Adrian Smith, former city council candidate, District 3, Fort Worth native. I stand here tonight, thankfully the chief is here. I saw the chief getting out of his vehicle, so I was elated that he's here tonight. So what I want to speak in reference to is just his Fort Worth Safe Initiative. I think it's 30 days till the initiation of it today. So I had an opportunity to look at the 25-minute press conference himself and Mayor Parker did, but I think there's one thing that's left out that can begin this process. And the Fort Worth Safe begins whenever law enforcement returns back to the basics of policing. The basics I speak of begin with community patrolling. Patrolling is a big deterrent for potential crime happening when it's done on a consistent, continual basis. Too often, law enforcement responds to the aftermath of crime that's already been committed, thus allowing for the individual or individuals responsible to flee and a victim or victims to suffer. So I say if we get back to the basics of patrolling, letting them, law enforcement letting themselves be visible, on a consistent basis, you will see the difference it will make in the overall community. Trust me, I'm from the community. I was a young pup back then, so I used to be in things. But when we saw law enforcement, we really thought things that we would do if we were going to do them because we saw law enforcement's presence, so patrolling. Also, the chief had 3 key points. He said safe, wellness, and I might butcher this word, resiliency. You all will correct me later. But on the wellness part, I just say the chief spoke of many, I think, organizations and people who are going to play a part in this. I say to hold them accountable, make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do. If they're receiving funding, hold them accountable because we know it's going to take everyone to make this safe initiative to be successful. And last but not least, he spoke to department issues. He said there's a shortage in staff, morality issues, and a negative narrative. I'll just speak to one since my time is winding down. The negative narrative we can't control because there's mainstream media, there's radio, there's social media. So a lot of people just act and repeat what they are hearing and seeing. So in order to counter the negative narrative, the police department has to be actively involved in the communities. And again, it starts with basic patrolling. Thank you all.
Thank you, Adrian. Our next speaker is Thomas Torlakasi.
Make sure this works correctly. Told, okay, that's great. Madam Mayor, council members, fellow citizens and neighbors, the first point I want to make is that a woman named Ms. Maston was taken to the Tarrant County Jail by Fort Worth PD. She's a citizen of one of the council members' districts and clearly disabled. It is the first step in a series of mistakes by law enforcement. I'm not going to talk that much about what the PD might have done differently, but I want to point out that over the last 30 months, 40 people have died in what I call a dungeon that we probably helped pay for both by our county and our state taxes. The sheriff, the absentee sheriff, is the person where the buck stops. Of those 40 people, 27 were Fort Worth residents. One of them only lived a few minutes and, of course, was never adjudicated about anything. 23 others of those Fort Worth citizens also were non-adjudicated. That means they were innocent. They hadn't had their real day in court yet. There's going to come a point when our city council and mayor needs to look at the county and the sheriff and say, stop killing our citizens. Now, separately, I wanted to talk about Thomas, and Thomas. Antonio Thomas, a young activist, Thomas Moore, a young activist, and Thomas Torlincassi, a not-so-young activist, all have that same 37-page list. The point to that list is Benjamin Johnson isn't on that list, but 337 other Fort Worth officers are. Benjamin Johnson was arrested yesterday by the Benbrook PD for 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. When it comes to accountability and transparency, we got a long way to go. Another point, everyone I'm looking at raised their right hand when they were sworn in and say the pledge every week and pledged to support and uphold the Constitution, which includes the Bill of Rights. Every man and woman in uniform that serves the citizens supposedly swears an oath to the Constitution. But we see daily and weekly violations of Fort Worth citizens' civil rights by people who swore to uphold the Constitution. My last point is that Mr. Thomas and Mr. Thomas and Mr. Thomas spent $1,731 to acquire 37 pages of documents, something they probably should have been able to get for free, and it took them months to acquire that list. The Fort Worth PD, when you're trying to acquire these kinds of documents, does everything it can to release it, and that is not
Our
transparency
next
or
speaker
accountability.
is LaShondra Huggins. Is LaShondra here? Haven't seen her. No. Okay. I believe that's the last of our speakers, council. With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.